Deer disappear from yards all the time. Most people assume they just moved on. But in most cases, the deer are still in the area. They just stopped choosing your yard. And there's usually one specific reason why. 3 weeks ago, you had deer in your yard every morning. The same individuals, reliable, recognizable. Now nothing. The feeder sits full and untouched. You walk outside, and there's no movement, no fresh tracks, no indication that anything has visited overnight. You replay the past few weeks in your mind, and nothing stands out. You haven't changed anything, or so you think. But something changed. It may have been small. It may have been invisible to you. But the deer noticed it before you did, and they've already adjusted their routing accordingly. Let's find out exactly what happened, and more importantly, exactly how to bring them back. Deer disappearance from a yard that previously had regular, reliable visits almost always traces back to one of 5 categories. Identifying the right category is the first step in the recovery process. Category 1. Seasonal movement. Deer shift their home ranges significantly with seasonal changes, particularly during the fall rut in October and November, when bucks travel large distances following does in estrus and significantly disrupting the established movement patterns of doe groups. If your deer disappeared in October, November, or in April and May, during fawning season when does actively isolate themselves, seasonal movement is the most likely explanation and requires patience more than intervention. The deer will typically return when the seasonal pressure subsides. Category 2. New threat introduction. A new dog in your neighborhood, not even your yard, but in the general area, can disrupt deer routing for the surrounding half-mile. Its bark, territorial urine marking, and regular outdoor presence creates a threat zone that deer reroute around. A neighbor's dog that recently started being left outside at night is one of the most common hidden causes of sudden deer disappearance. Similarly, new outdoor cats which have intense predator scent can affect approach routes. Category 3. Human behavior change. A new person regularly present in or around your property, a family member visiting, a contractor working nearby, increased foot traffic from a new neighbor, changes the human activity profile that deer have been calibrated to. Even a change in your own schedule, resulting in you being outside at different times or moving through the yard differently, can register as a behavior change. Category 4. Food quality decline. Old, moldy, or stale feed that has been sitting in the feeder for more than a week begins to develop mold spores and bacterial colonies that are detectable to deer by scent. Deer can smell this and will reject feed that has spoiled even slightly. What looks acceptable to you may be clearly off to an animal with 297 million scent receptors. Category 5. Sustained predator pressure. A coyote den established nearby, a large outdoor dog with an expanded territory, or even a significant uptick in human deer hunting in the surrounding area can create sustained predator pressure that shifts deer movement away from a region entirely for weeks or months. Before you can fix the problem, you need to correctly identify which of the 5 categories you're dealing with. Applying the wrong recovery protocol wastes time and may compound the issue. Start with ground-level detective work. Check for hoof prints in soft soil around the perimeter of your yard and in nearby areas, not just directly at the feeder. If fresh deer prints appear in the surrounding area but stop at your property line or don't approach the feeder, the deer are still present in the region but are specifically avoiding your space. This points toward a localized threat, a new scent element, a behavior change, or a feeder quality issue, rather than a broad seasonal or predator pressure shift. If there are no fresh prints anywhere in the general surrounding area over a 5 to 7 day observation window, the deer have genuinely shifted their range. In this case, recovery efforts focused on your yard alone will be slow. You need to wait for the ranging shift to complete and for deer to re-explore the territory. Install a trail camera if you don't have one. A basic motion-activated camera positioned to cover the feeder and the primary approach path for 7 to 10 days provides objective data that your direct observation cannot. Review footage every 48 hours. If deer appear on camera approaching the property but turning away before reaching the feeder, the avoidance trigger is specific to the feeder location or immediate surrounding area, the approach corridor, the feeder scent, or the feeder's immediate microenvironment. If no deer appear on camera at any point, the absence is broader. Also check your feeder carefully. Smell the feed. Inspect for mold or insect contamination. Check for any unusual scent on the feeder hardware itself. And note whether any recent wind event or other disturbance might have deposited foreign scent near the feeder area. Here is a structured, proven recovery protocol that addresses the most common disappearance causes. Step 1. Remove and thoroughly clean the feeder. Use unscented, biodegradable soap and rinse completely with clean water. Allow the feeder to air dry outdoors, away from human activity areas, for at least 24 hours before redeploying. The goal is to return the feeder to as neutral a scent profile as possible. Human hand scent, mold traces, rancid fat deposits from old corn. All of these contribute to feeder rejection. Step 2. Move the feeder 10 to 15 feet from its previous location. This is counterintuitive. Consistency of location is normally ideal. But if the deer have specifically begun avoiding the feeder's exact position, a modest relocation resets the threat mapping of that specific spot. Use the same approach corridor and the same general area, but introduce enough spatial variation to create a fresh assessment opportunity. Step 3. Restock with fresh, high-quality attractant. The quality of the feed matters for recovery. Deer pellets with molasses, apple-scented deer blocks, or fresh browse branches are all more effective recovery attractants than plain corn because they carry strong positive scent signals that invite investigation from distance. Step 4. Enforce a strict human absence protocol near the feeding area for a minimum of 2 full weeks. This means no approaching the feeder in person during daylight, no standing near the area. Minimize foot traffic to the feeder fill path only. During low deer activity midday hours, wearing gloves to reduce hand scent. The goal is to allow the scent environment around the feeder to stabilize and normalize without ongoing human scent deposits. Step 5. Be patient and maintain consistency. If deer are still present in the general area, they will reinvestigate a consistent, clean, quality food source within 2 to 4 weeks. The recovery timeline depends heavily on how close the deer's home range currently comes to your property and how severe the original avoidance trigger was. Once your deer have returned, protecting that relationship through consistent practices is far easier than recovering it. Clean and refill feeders on a fixed schedule, the same days of the week, ideally the same time of day. Deer build feeding expectations around predictable patterns. A schedule they can anticipate and rely on creates deeper site loyalty than sporadic, variable feeding even if the total amount offered is identical. Never let feed drop below 25% capacity during active feeding periods. Deer visit and check feeders even when they're not hungry, confirming that the resource is still reliable. A feeder that runs empty triggers concern about the resource's future reliability. Manage scent year-round as a consistent practice rather than only when problems arise. Handle feeders with unscented gloves. Avoid walking through the feeding area unnecessarily. Create and maintain a buffer zone, a section of your yard that is consistently low in human activity and scent, between your regular living spaces and the deer's feeding area. Invest in a trail camera as a permanent monitoring tool rather than only for problem diagnosis. Regular review of camera footage lets you detect subtle changes in deer behavior, reduced visit frequency, shorter feeding duration, increased head raises during feeding that indicate building stress before the deer disappear entirely. Early detection of behavioral shifts gives you time to identify and address triggers before they escalate to avoidance. Your deer are almost certainly not gone forever. In most cases, they're within half a mile, and your yard is still on their mental map, just temporarily deprioritized while a perceived threat or reliability concern runs its course. The relationship you've built over months of consistent feeding and calm behavior doesn't disappear when the deer do. It's stored in their memory. They remember your scent, your yard, and the positive association they built there. Your job right now is simply to give them reason to act on that memory again. Follow this protocol with patience and consistency, and you'll have them back. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video covers the single most effective thing you can grow or plant to make your yard completely irresistible to deer across every season of the year.